Hello and welcome to Profiling Evil Reacts. Yesterday, the district attorney's office in Jacksonville, Florida, provided more discovery documents to Aiden Fucci's defense team. And they provided us, through that, a little more insight into the murder of 13-year-old student athlete Tristyn Bailey. Now, if you recall, a 14-year-old Florida teenager is accused with violently murdering Tristyn, stabbing her more than 114 times. I need to stress that Fucci is not guilty of the crime of murder. All of the allegations against him at this time are just that, allegations. Well, we're learning more with the release of the documents that point to a possible mental competency defense. So is Fucci's defense preparing for an insanity plea? You're not going to want to miss this update or any of our videos for that matter. So please take a moment, hit the like and the subscribe button, ring the bell so that you get all of our notifications when we release new content. Well, you heard me correctly. In an article by Lee Brown of the New York Post yesterday, Aiden Fucci, the teenager accused of killing Bailey, was reportedly telling friends that he was hearing voices in his head. Those voices were telling him to kill people. Now, is this new information? Did he really tell his friends that he was hearing voices before he allegedly murdered the 13-year-old? Now, we know that the district attorney announced that Fucci told friends he was planning to stab someone to death, but did he really tell them back then that he was also hearing voices? It was reported that he told a close female friend about his desire to kill, and public information that's been released suggests that the alleged killer would even take out his knife and pretend to stab his friend with it. The prosecutor's office said that Fucci always carried a knife with him and that he would sneak up on this female friend, surprise her from behind, and put a knife to her throat and pretend to slit it. Holy smokes, folks. If this is true, why wasn't this reported earlier? And it probably was. But this, if true, is a terribly disturbed teenager. Let's watch this report from First Coast News.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight at 6 o'clock. I'm Jeannie Blaylock alongside Anthony Austin.
And we do want to warn you tonight, some of the details you're about to hear may be disturbing. Jessica Clark is on your side tonight with those details, joining us from the newsroom. And Jessica, that release also includes a report from the medical examiner's office.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, these are just some of the reports made available today in the large document release from the state attorney's office in the murder case of Tristyn Bailey. And what's inside includes an image suggesting violence against women, and it paints a disturbing picture.
More information revealed about 14-year-old Aiden Fucci and 13-year-old Tristyn Bailey in the early hours of May 9th. Court documents indicate Tristyn's family realized she was not at home the morning of Mother's Day during breakfast. They searched the entire house for her, and then her mother frantically called 911 to report her missing. While she was still missing, according to investigators' reports, Fucci changed his story with detectives at least once, ultimately saying he left a friend's house with Bailey the night before, that the two walked to her street in their Durbin Crossing neighborhood in St. Johns County, and that she tried to grab him, and he says he pushed her to the ground and she hit her head. Fucci also suggested to investigators while Bailey was still missing that she may have gone to meet a drug dealer. Investigators later found that drug dealer and determined he had nothing to do with the murder case. Later that day, a jogger in the neighborhood found a young girl's body bloody in the neighborhood's woods. The medical examiner's report released Wednesday indicates Bailey had been stabbed 114 times and had defensive wounds. That report also revealed the suspected weapon, a knife, was found in a pond only 140 feet from the body. The knife missing its tip. The tip found in Tristyn's scalp.
Keep going.
According to investigators' reports, during a search warrant in Fucci's home, investigators found bloody clothes in his closet, as well as what is described as satanic images and violent drawings of women in his bedroom.
Now, many people are named in these documents, and we understand from previous news gathering that there are more than 250 potential witnesses in this case. Live in the newsroom, Jessica Clark, First Coast News on your side.
Well, the DA's office reminded everybody that Fucci told his friend that he was going to murder somebody. He said he was going to do it within a month. His statement to a friend included his desire to find someone randomly walking at night. In his purported fantasy, he would drag the victim into the woods and stab him. To paint a clearer picture of this premeditation, the friend also told investigators that Fucci added that he would act innocent after murdering people, and then he would continue to kill people. His plan was to become a serial killer, and he is quoted as saying that he would ultimately run away and make people believe he was dead just so he could continue killing people. His fantasies included drawing graphic pictures of mutilated bodies. He told his friends that he was hearing voices, and those voices were telling him to kill people whenever he got angry. That night, as he and Tristyn slipped into the woods by the pond, this teenager allegedly became very angry. The information that was released suggests that Fucci and Bailey talked near the pond, and that Fucci tried to kiss Bailey, who pushed him away. This angered him, and he threw her to the ground, and she either struck her head on a rock or was struck with a rock. What happened next, though, is supported by physical evidence and backed by forensic evidence. Fucci allegedly pulled a knife, perhaps the same knife he practiced with on his friends, and he savagely assaulted Bailey, stabbing her more than 114 times. So let's take a minute and watch this comprehensive news clip from News 4 Jax.
First-degree murder charges.
Today, prosecutors released dozens of pages detailing some of the evidence in the case. Fucci is charged in the death of 13-year-old Tristyn Bailey, whose body was found on Mother's Day after an hours-long search. Investigators said she was stabbed to death. News 4 Jax reporter Eric Avanier has been looking over the newly revealed information and talking with a defense attorney not involved in the case. Eric.
Yes, the attorney I spoke with says this will be a long and grueling court case for both the prosecution and the defense. And he says that there are some details in those newly released court documents that will about Fucci's state of mind that may come into play. Now, before we roll the tape on this, I do want to warn our viewers that some of the details you're about to hear are very disturbing. According to court documents, investigators not only found bloody clothing and sneakers in the bedroom of 14-year-old Aiden Fucci, they also located a notebook containing what were described as drawings of a violent nature. The drawings were described as having satanic elements, which included a pentagram and a nude female with what appeared to be blood coming from wounds. The documents also mentioned Fucci being interrogated by a detective and saying, quote, "How is that my problem?" when the detective told Fucci that 13-year-old Tristyn Bailey was found dead and was the last person seen with her. An autopsy report confirmed Bailey was stabbed 114 times. The documents also revealed investigators spoke with Fucci's girlfriend, who said Fucci heard voices in his head when he got angry. She said those same voices told him he was worthless, disappointing, and to kill people. Additionally, according to documents, she said there were times when he would put the knife to her neck and pretend to cut it. She also said a month before Bailey was found stabbed to death, Fucci told her that he was going to kill someone in the woods by stabbing them.
First and foremost, Eric, you're dealing with a juvenile here.
Defense attorney John Halsborough is not affiliated with the case, but says this case involves a child murder suspect who, on paper, appears to have a lack of self-awareness and is probably not mature enough to fully understand the consequences of the charges he faces. He also says statements in court documents suggest Fucci could have mental health issues.
It opens the door for many defenses to come in on this young man's behalf.
Halsborough says a lot will happen before this case goes to trial.
Evaluations are certainly going to happen here, psychological screenings and the like. Full analysis of this young man's background and environment will come into play.
Bailey put up one heck of a fight, evidenced by the massive number of defensive wounds. Now, allegedly, Fucci focused his assault on her face and other specific body areas. He would later be captured on CCTV calmly walking away from the area alone. The knife that was used to kill Bailey was recovered from the pond where the assault occurred, and it was forensically tied to the murder. Investigators also found another piece of interesting behavioral evidence and physical evidence at the scene. It was on Bailey's body. The police documents reveal unique drawings on both of Tristyn's ankles, presumably made by the killer. The word karma was written in blue ink on the inside of her left ankle and a smiley face on the inside of her right one. If this was done by the killer, the question becomes, when did it happen? And of course, knowing that is a notebook and drawings, probably would have similar kinds of drawings in the notebook. Now, during the search of Fucci's home, police did find a notebook that was full of satanic type drawings of violent depictions, including drawings of women unclothed with red X's all over the body, consistent with wounds that Tristyn suffered. The renderings included scenes of decapitation where severed limbs showed blood oozing from the wounds. Well, let's get back to Fucci's claims of hearing voices. According to experts, auditory hallucinations or hearing voices is a common symptom in people living with schizophrenia. Now, I'm not a psychiatrist, nor am I diagnosing Fucci, but I'm simply saying and relaying that research indicates this phenomenon of hearing voices. You know, I worked in a psychiatric unit for years during college, and it housed a number of schizophrenics. They face such horrible challenges in their lives, and experts suggest that 70 to 80% of people who have schizophrenia hear voices. Dr. Adrian Prada says that people suffering from schizophrenia hear voices that call out their name. The voices argue with the individual. They call them by name, and they can begin suddenly and grow stronger over time. According to Florida law, though, mental infirmities do not constitute a defense of insanity unless the defendant can show that they did not know that what they were doing was wrong or that its consequences were real. Now, it also means that although the defendant knew what he or she was doing and what the consequences are, if the defendant can prove that they didn't know it was wrong, it could be considered a defense. Well, you know, I've suggested in other cases like this, and I find myself focusing on Fucci's behavior before and after the murder. It's interesting to me that police recovered evidence suggesting Fucci fantasized about committing a homicide that closely mirrored what happened to Tristyn Bailey. That physical evidence, such as the notebook with renderings of mutilations, was recovered in his personal possessions. But not only that, eyewitness accounts talk about behaviors where he appears to be acting out fantasies with them. Remember the friend who said he would sneak up behind her and simulate murdering her while drawing his knife symbolically across her throat? The other thing is he would conceal evidence after the murder, such as throwing the murder weapon into the pond, if in fact he did that. Changing clothes and feigning little knowledge of Tristyn's whereabouts in his famed Snapchat photo. And keep in mind, bloody clothing that was apparently forensically tied to Tristyn was recovered in his room. Well, as we watch this case unfold, I keep having one mental image in my mind surface to the very top. Newsweek reporter Alexandra Hutzler reported on one police report that documented an exchange overheard between Aiden Fucci and his mother, Crystal Smith, as they sat in a room at the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. Smith told Fucci that Tristyn's body had been located and that she was dead. Fucci's response? How is that my problem? Well, Aiden Fucci, let me count the ways this is your problem. Holy smokes. Well, here's my question for you folks. Do you think the Fucci defense team is preparing for an insanity defense? Please take a moment, look over the insanity defense statute and put your answers down below. I'll paste the link to the statute in the description box below, and I'm going to look forward to reading your comments. So thanks for supporting Profiling Evil. If you like these quick reviews, please hit the like and the subscribe button. Get Profiling Evil's notifications, and we'll see you soon at the next crime scene.